All right, we're gonna go ahead and call the Escada Planning Commission meeting to order, Wednesday, October 16th at 2 o'clock. Let's do a roll call.
Commissioner Hartwig is absent. Commissioner Sager,
Here.
Commissioner Stahl,
Here.
Commissioner Carpenter is pending. Chair Wheeler,
Here.
Commissioner Tucker.
Here.
And then we have utility partner Scott Crosby,
Here.
and then Commissioner Perkins.
Here.
All right, looks like we got a quorum. A couple new faces here. Of course, we have Miss Ryan Tucker, newly appointed to the Planning Commission. This is your first full meeting, right?
No, I was here last time.
You weren't here last time. Gosh,
Right here.
was I here last time?
Minus hunting seat.
That's right. We switched things up. And then we got Scott Crosby, who's with Reliance Connects. The formerly dissolved infrastructure committee got placed into various committees. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, so they dissolved the infrastructure committee, which I sat on for many years, and they invited me to the planning commission. So this is my first time where I've been able to make it. So
All right.
thank you
And
for
then,
having me. Yeah.
Of course, we have City Councilor Strobel here, as always, giving us good insight from the next commission up the food chain. So let's get on to the agenda. We got the approval of the September 18th meeting minutes.
I move it and approve.
Take it.
Second.
We got a motion. We got a second. Do we need to discuss anything? No discussion. All right. All those in favor, please raise your right hand, or if you're virtual, give us a.
I wasn't
aye.
here, so I gotta abstain.
Okay. Motion carried. Commission business. Looks like we have none, but I just want to make sure that's accurate. Okay. We'll go ahead and jump into the public hearing. This is land partition 2024-04-LP, Lock Martin. This is a newly annexed subdivided piece of light industrial ground that is looking for a partition. So I believe we have our planning staff on line here that's going to jump in with their staff report.
Correct. Thank you, commissioners and chair. I just want to confirm that you all are seeing the full screen version of the slideshow.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right. So again, this is case number 2024-03-LP, the Lock Martin partition. So the applicants are Steve and Tiffany Locke, and the contact for the application has been Michael McElroy. The proposal is a 2-lot partition of a 1-acre property at 2318 Northwest Martin Street, and we received comments from the city engineer and fire marshal on this application. This is again part of the Lock Martin subdivision, which council approved in 2023, local file number 2023-02-S. And that final plat was approved in 2024. This aerial image is showing the lotting pattern in the area, as well as lot 17, the lot we're looking at today. And the next slide is showing some updated aerial imagery. As you can see here, there have been improvements to the roadways for Northwest Martin Street and Northwest Park Avenue. And the lot 17 has frontage on Northwest Martin Street. These improvements have included paving of the right-of-way and connecting utilities, stubbing them to the lot. The improvements that have not yet been completed are sidewalks and driveway access points. This is located in the light industrial zone. As Chair Wheeler mentioned, this is located near the northwest border of the city and the city's urban growth boundary, and it's surrounded by other properties that are also light industrial. So we have a 2-lot partition. The intention is for future industrial development. Each of the new lots will be approximately a ½ acre, and both lots will have frontage on Northwest Martin Street. There are no frontage improvements, site improvements, or new construction proposed. This is just a partition of the lot. And here is the site plan submitted by the applicant showing the proposed lots 17A and 17B. So getting into the approval criteria, when we are looking at the partition criteria, the application is meeting most with conditions of approval, including that it cannot be sold until final plat approval. In the application, the applicant mentions that the lot is currently listed for sale, when one of the conditions of approval will be that a sale cannot occur until the final plat for this partition is recorded. Similarly, no building permits will be issued until that final plat approval. And staff have determined that this application isn't likely to have continuous partitioning over time. It's the first proposal in the Lockmartin subdivision, and it is just dividing into 2 lots. And we'll talk about the design standards as well. There are a couple other chapters that apply to a partition, one of those being the light industrial zone standards. And this partition can meet all of the standards, but one without the condition of approval, and that one is in terms of sidewalks. Again, this is a typical requirement for subdivisions or partitions that sidewalks be constructed, as well as driveway access points. This was something that was required in the Lockmartin subdivision approval before final plat approval. However, the planning director at the time and the city engineer determined that to provide sidewalks and driveway accesses prior to permit approval would be challenging and costly for an applicant because of the unpredictable nature of how industrial development is laid out and the different site needs. Therefore, they established that sidewalks and driveway accesses should not be required until time of building permit application. And this is something that is also built into the building code, which requires that projects that cost greater than $15,000 are required to install curbs and sidewalks. And this also included a concurrency standard, which has to do with the capacity and adequacy of transportation facilities. Again, talking about sidewalks and vehicle access, this is something that we looked at, and because the city engineer didn't have concerns, the fire marshal didn't have concerns, we implemented a COA that just says that the sidewalks will be required when it comes time for building permit approval. And looking at those design standards, most are going to meet the standards with a condition of approval. Similarly, the land divisions have to be consistent with the development code and the comp plan, which will happen with the required provision of sidewalks and vehicle access. There is a performance agreement via a bond already in place for the Lockmartin subdivision for improvements to paving, striping, and signage, but that performance bond does not include sidewalks, which is why, again, we have recommended a condition of approval that those be administered with the building permit so that the city has someone on record providing those improvements. And then similarly, when the developers come and build on the site, those design standards for sidewalk width, for vehicle access, all need to meet the requirements that are in the code and also were already approved in the subdivision plans. Also, with the application, The applicant states that lot 17 is served by city sewer, water, and stormwater. The city engineer notes that with the division of the two lots, one half will be served by water, the other half will be served by stormwater and sewer. So the plans are not entirely clear if they have both of these lots connected, have stubs for the services. So again, requiring before final plat approval that both lots be fully served by city services. And so the staff recommend approval to 2024-03-LP with the conditions of approval. These are including that the two lot partition is substantially similar to the plans that they have submitted, that all public services be made available to each lot prior to final plat approval and installed underground, and that sidewalk and vehicle access improvements are installed for each lot prior to building permit approval and meeting the plans that were previously approved for the Lock Martin subdivision. And then typical partition subdivision conditions of approval, again, the parcels cannot be sold nor building permits approved until that final plat approval, and this will be valid for 2 years. In that time period, they must receive final plat approval. So now we can jump to any public comments and then commission questions and discussion, and then motion for a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Commission, any questions at this point in time? I have one question regarding lot size. There's no lot size requirements in M1, right?
Correct.
Okay. Second thing, slightly related, but not directly, I guess. You mentioned the $15,000 requirement for sidewalks improvements and roadways. Is that right?
Correct.
What and when was that number developed?
I do not know that off of the top of my head. That is a building code, the building code chapter element.
And it doesn't necessarily pertain to this directly, but if that's something that was developed in the 80s, $15,000 back then was a lot different than it is now.
Right.
So I don't know if that needs to be, attached to a consumer price indexed or revised every 2 years or something, but $15,000 again, and especially in construction, doesn't go very far. So
Sure. I'll make a note of that and pass that along to Alan.
okay. If we don't have any further questions, we can enter the public hearing, of which I'll read a little statement and then ask the applicant to come up and add anything if they feel necessary. So let's go ahead and close down the planning commission, open the public hearing. An issue which may be the basis for appeal to the city council must be raised to the close of the record at the final evidentiary hearing on the specific application. Such issues shall be raised with sufficient specificity or as to afford the city council and other parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Failure of an issue to be raised at the hearing in person or by letter, or failure to provide sufficient specificity to afford the city council and other parties an adequate opportunity to respond to the issue precludes the appeal to the city council on that issue. With that being said, if the applicant or its representative would like to come and just give us a little Reader's Digest for a bit. One question as you're sitting down there. I assume that this is something to do with these lots may be sold if they're divided?
Just giving a lower point of entry for smaller buildings so that a business can come in and just get in at a more affordable price point.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, and Mike, would you introduce yourself to make it official?
I'm Michael McElroy with Lock Buildings.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are these lots sold yet, or is this just to provide a,
Those two lots are not sold yet.
gotcha.
No, there's about, I think we have, including that one as one piece, I think there's 6 lots of the 19 are left, I believe.
Gotcha. And then as far as the city services go, it sounds like water's on one end of it and sewer and storm are on the other. Is
We
that-
got a game plan. I spoke with Don DeRoja on that and we'll get both services. Yeah, we oversized the water service laterals to every lot. So they have a 6-inch service so that they're ready for fire suppression if needed. And so, and we got a game plan for the storm and the sewer too. So
Excellent.
we'll get it taken care of.
And any issues with the conditions approval?
No,
Okay,
everything's good.
perfect.
All right.
Thank you. If there's anybody else that'd like to speak on behalf of or against this application, now's a great time to do so. It doesn't appear that we have anybody in the audience or online, so we'll go ahead and exit out of the public hearing and back into the planning commission meeting. And with that, we have a decision to make. Is this our outright decision or does this go to city council?
This is you guys.
Perfect. So, need a motion, second. There's our three options up there.
And just a heads up, we lost Tara, so she's not online anymore.
We're still good with the quorum, right?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the number of this one again?
2024-04-LP.
I move that we approve 2024-04 LP as represented or as with all, here's what I want to say. With all the conditions that were presented. I second that.
All right, so we got a motion, we got a second, so motion is to approve with conditions as presented by staff, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Any discussion needed on this? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Just that easy. Michael, I think you'll have to get with staff, planning staff and figure out the rest of this, but at this point in time, you're good to go. Do we have any other public comment, questions, concerns?
Nope, unless any of you have something.
While we have planning staff on, in the future, what's the trigger for it to come to us? Is it just that it's a partition? Or is this something that the planning staff could take care of without getting us together for a meeting?
A partition does automatically require planning commission.
Is that a statewide rule or a Estacada rule?
That is an Estacada rule.
Who would then address that? Would that be planning commission or would that be city council if it needs to be revisited?
It would go through city council.
But who reviews? I mean, we're just talking about the staff reviewing it and then that would be fine.
Yeah, if there's no hangups and there's no conditions that are above and beyond or are contentious or any of that, if this could be more of an administrative function, I'm sure any application that would do this in the future would appreciate the lack of extending timeframes and make a more seamless process, especially if like we're not imposing on lot line or lot sizes or anything that's outside of the code that require a variance.
I agree.
From public notice, is the public notice only required of the planning commission meeting or is the public notice required for the partition? And some might be worth checking.
Yeah. So maybe, I don't know if that's an Alan question and he gets to kind of spearhead this, but I love meetings, but sometimes if we can avoid it, if it's just easy breezy,
Yeah.
I'd be approved to think about, or I'd be inclined to think about it for sure.
At least if we could have Alan have a look at it.
Okay. Okay. Well, sounds good. I don't think I have anything else.
Do we have any updates on where we were last time with the new code amendments? Last meeting.
For the park,
Park,
Yeah. Are we still working on them?
I think that was yeah, adopted on Monday by council.
Do I remember what that even said? I don't think so.
And then as far as the water management plan too,
Sure.
that's just moving forward. Is it have to be adopted by the city council as well?
Yeah, it has to be adopted. It's on the next agenda.
Okay. And then as far as acting on the actual waste or water treatment plant improvements, that's more of a long term.
That's more long term. I mean, we're working on it slowly, but we're moving forward in that way. Yep.
Okay.
How are we doing on the sewer?
Can we, can we ask for an update on that while we're here?
While we're here.
Sure. Yeah, we are right now doing the environmental review with the state. So we're doing the SHPO, which is the state historical, the archaeological review. They're doing that down there, and then we're going to have to go through the NOAA and the fish and wildlife review too, which will take a few more months.
Tentative, groundbreaking, like official, like let's start.
I mean, we're hoping February, March. This depends. It depends on how much NOAA wants to get involved because federal agencies move a lot slower.
What are we looking at a cost?
Right now, we did some value engineering and it's down to it's at about 58 million with after value engineering out some of the, yeah. Now, this is our 60% design cost. What'll happen is we'll go to 90% design. It'll be put, all the parts will be put out to bid. And at that point, the cost may change. And so what we've seen so far is we just did our early work package, which sent out the membrane equipment, the generator, and some of the electrical parts, because like the generator has 130-week lead time on that. And so we had to order it right now. And we found out, that was actually coming in about $1 million less than what we had estimated. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see that across the board.
Nice job off the cuff there, is what Elena.
Yeah, unprepared.
It's not tight. It's just.
Okay.
How do they plan on funding it?
We have a loan through DEQ, Clean Water State Revolving Fund.
Sure.
And we were able to get that loan as an equivalency loan, which reduces our interest to 1%. So even though we've seen these increased costs in the project, because we were able to get the significant decrease in our interest, it's not going to raise the rates as much as it would have otherwise.
Just an offhand question I had on that. What does it cost to originate a loan like that? Or is there any cost to originate? Is there origination cost to a bond?
Well, this is not a bond, it's a loan.
It's a loan, okay, so
Yes.
there's origination costs and,
I have no idea off the top of my head.
no, I'm just,
Yeah.
just curiosity.
Okay.
Any upcoming planning commission meetings?
Next month, you will have a planning commission meeting. There is a zone change for the community center, and then a subdivision and two variances for a subdivision called Ammon Heights. It's over on 4th, owned by Bill Highlands.
Oh, is that one across from Granny's?
No, up on the
No,
hill.
Up-
yeah.
Up the hill a ways? Oh, 4th, okay, got it.
Okay.
Yep. And that's November 20th.
Is that the week of Thanksgiving?
It's the week before,
Okay.
I think. Let me double check.
It is.
Yeah, week before.
Okay. Sounds good. Well,
Okay,
at 12, or 2:25, we'll adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, commissioners.
did find out something anyway.